So today I have chose to make a porterhouse steak with potato, onion, and bacon hash. My ingredients include a porterhouse beef steak, baby Dutch yellow potatoes, red pepper flakes, salt, Everglades seasoning, olive oil, goat's butter, bacon, 1 yellow onion, and a clove of garlic. I really enjoy a good steak and potatoes, so that was my motivation for making this dish. I purchased this steak from Publix. It weighed 1.08 pounds and was on sale for $8.99 a pound. It was packaged on a foam tray, seal wrapped, with a packet to soak up excess blood. This steak was packaged at the retail location, not pre-packaged and delivered case ready to the store. The entire cost of making this dish was $20.99. Per serving, that works out to be $5.25. The meat alone per serving is $2.25. This intact piece of meat includes the muscle, psoas major, longus mustus dorsi, gluteus medius, and multifidus dorsi. It is part of the retail cut called the short loin. Because this steak is intact, the inner parts of the steak do not have the possibility of becoming contaminated. Therefore, the inside does not have to reach 165 degrees. I stored this steak in my fridge for approximately 2 hours prior to cooking it. The refrigerator temperature was 32 degrees. Because the potatoes took longest to cook, I decided to start cutting them up first. I cut them into small slices and put them in a pan with some light butter on medium heat. I then moved to my steak. I unpackaged it and properly disposed of the packaging in the garbage. And then, of course, I went to wash my hands since I was handling raw meat. I then seasoned my steak with Everglades seasoning, salt, and red pepper flakes. I did this on both sides of the steak to ensure that the steak would be well seasoned for consumption. I then poured a couple tablespoons of olive oil in a pan on high heat. I waited for it to start slightly smoking before I placed the steak in the pan. I also made sure to put the oven on at 400 degrees so that way when I was done searing the steak, I could place it in the oven to finish cooking. I waited for the pan to get smoking hot to ensure that my steak would have a good sear on it. A very hot pan is extremely important to have a well-seared steak. I seared the steak on both sides for 2 minutes on each side. I then took the cutting board and other contaminated surfaces to the sink to be washed to make sure I did not put raw meat anywhere. After searing the steak on both sides, I placed a couple pads of butter on the steak to ensure that it would be nice and juicy before I put it in the oven. While my steak was in the oven, I continued to stir my potatoes to ensure that they would cook evenly. I then placed 4 pieces of bacon in a pan to cook so I could cut them up and add them to my potato mash. I then cut up 1 onion and 1 clove of garlic and added them to my potatoes so they could lightly saute in the potatoes. I then added my cut up bacon to my potatoes. Now that everything was done with my potatoes, I could pull my steak out of the oven. My steak cooked in the oven for 5 minutes and I let it go to 170 degrees. I then cut up some small pieces of goat cheese to add as a garnish on top of the potato mix. As you can see here, my steak was cooked to a nice medium rare. So this is my final project. I sat down to enjoy my steak while watching some Netflix, and even the doggo approves of how great this steak is. I then placed my steak in this Tupperware container in order to make sure that it would not get dried out in the fridge. I also did the same thing for the remainder of my potatoes. And I placed them right back in my fridge. I then took all of my dirty dishes and placed them in the dishwasher to make sure that they would be properly sanitized at the correct heat.